The Ladakh region of northwest India is one of the highest desert plateaus of the world. Altitudes here range from 3 to almost 6,000 meters above sea level. Despite being one of the largest districts in India, the formidable terrain has a remarkably low population density of just over 2 people per square kilometer. The region comprises 2 districts, the distinctly Buddhist Leh and the predominantly Islamic Kargil. While extremes in climate and terrain are breathtaking for tourists, they make life extremely vulnerable for the 85% Ladakhis living in rural areas. Winters here are harsh. Temperatures dip to minus 50 degrees Celsius, and heavy snowfall often causes avalanches. For months at a time, people are cut off, not just from civilization, but even from their neighbors. At other times, unpredictable Mother Nature acts up, as she did in the late 70s. A sudden cloudburst over the Indus River in Leh transformed its gentle, life-giving flow into a violent story of devastation. The flash floods of 1978 submerged entire villages along the Chushot-Marshallong bank. Structures made of mud bricks simply melted into the water, leaving thousands homeless. Anxiously watching this destruction was Rani Diskit Angmo, the then Queen of Ladakh.
दूसरे साल 78 में यहाँ लद्दाख में फ्लड आया था, तो काफ़ी जगह पे ज़मीन, मकान वगैरह, मवेशी वगैरह बहुत नुकसान हो गए थे.
A desperate SOS by the Queen resulted in the arrival of Save the Children in Ladakh, under the stewardship of Sir Robert Folkes, who was soon joined by Dean Khan from Leh itself. The chain of events that followed was quick. After the initial relief work was over, Save the Children stayed on, as requested by the local administration, to intervene in other related areas. A supplementary nutrition program was soon undertaken with the setting up of the Leh Nutrition Project to help the landless and homeless rehabilitated villagers, especially the children. With the objective of empowering communities to take better care of their children, integrated community development projects were then undertaken, focusing on agriculture, irrigation, animal husbandry, health and education. Underlying the diversity of all these efforts was a common critical foundation: people's participation, a fundamental tenet of Save the Children's functioning across the globe. Community ownership of initiatives and customizing interventions to suit local sensitivities and traditions was thus a conscious strategy.
Our approach was to do whatever we could that the village itself told us would improve their economy, because the whole point was to make households more self-sufficient, more able to invest in their children. Which is why, in the beginning, we nearly always did things which were traditional somewhere in Ladakh already.
Okay, we brought engineers, but with engineers, some local engineers, the village engineers, we put them together, because they understand how fast the glacier melts, how fast it comes from the mountains. They live with that.
Working in a society firmly rooted in a traditional mindset and settled in the midst of extremely discouraging terrain led to its share of initial struggles.
we have to walk on frozen river. Sometimes the ice just breaks down. That's why we used to carry our whole things on our back, in the backpack, and put a long stick like this across and tie up with ropes. If somebody goes down, at least that stick can hold for some time and then pull it, you know.
उस वक्त तो हमारे ना ये रोड था, ना इतना गाड़ी थे, ना इतना सहूलत थे.
And I've seen with my own eyes in villages here, women being carried down a mountain with a baby half in and half out of the womb.
किसी का लेबर प्रॉब्लम लेबर होता था, कई दिन तक वो लोग अंधेरे कमरे में सबसे नीचे जहाँ से आवाज़ सुनाई नहीं देते हैं वहाँ जाके बंद करके रखते हैं. चाहे भाई खाना बेशक पिलाते हैं. हमारे यहाँ एक ऐसा कल्चर है, ऐसे प्रॉब्लम में आवाज़ नहीं निकलना है.
तो उस वक्त तो मत पूछो कि जो डिलीवरी हुआ था तो हो गया, जो मरना था वो मर जाता था बगैर इलाज.
Due to the determination and sensitivity of its efforts, Save the Children was not only the first NGO intervention in the region, it was also the most consistent, stable and effective one. The team thus gained tremendous popularity as saviors, service providers who bailed out the community from various crises. And yet, winds of change were blowing across Save the Children, not just in India, but globally. Like a good nurturing parent, it was time to take some painful decisions. As part of its new strategy in 1996, Save the Children would now work with the people and not for the people. As a result, the community, which had got accustomed to being provided materials and services, was now encouraged by Save the Children to build its own capacities, to think and fend for itself, and to learn how and where to knock for external help, be it government or other development agencies.
96 में तो हमें ये जोर का झटका धीरे से बहुत लगा सर, क्योंकि इतना लगा कहने की बात नहीं. तो कोई 1-2 साल तो हमको इतना मुश्किल हो गया, क्योंकि लोगों को दिमाग में था भाई आज तक ये प्रोवाइडर रोल करते थे, अचानक इन्होंने अनेबलिंग कहीं से किया. कुछ आदमियों ने तो हमें ये भी कहा भाई शायद आजकल ये अपने जेब में डालते होंगे. उसको मोटिवेट करने में कम से कम हमें 2-3 साल लगा.
The shift in 96 was to develop ways in thinking about how, using the credibility and trust that the organisation had developed because of its important community-based work, how to use that in terms of influencing wider policies, wider structures, wider implementation, so that all children could be reached, not just those who were fortunate enough to be in the communities where the project was reaching in direct terms.
The new strategy also involved a critical shift in focus. In keeping with its name, Save the Children had always attempted to directly or indirectly improve the lives of children. In the earlier years, a complete hostel complex in Leh was constructed and handed over to the Lions Club for helping children from the remotest corners of the region stay in a more centralized location. The result was better access to education in nearby schools and an environment that helped children rediscover the simple joys of being children. Other children were not so lucky, such as these students from the village Lardo. In those days, going to school meant a grueling trek of almost 10 kilometers every single day, over terrain that was difficult and tiring. As a result, only those older children who were determined and healthy finally made it to school. But things soon changed. Thanks to a trolley installed by Save the Children over a decade ago, even young students from Lardo could simply pull themselves across the river and climb over to the main road opposite the village. The walk from here to their school in Alchi was considerably shorter, And if they were lucky enough to get a lift, well, that was a bonus. However, as part of the new strategy, Save the Children now decided to directly focus on children as the core of all future work, not just as beneficiaries, but as partners.
This means that we put a lot of importance on ensuring that we are understanding what children themselves are telling us about the world in which they live, about the problems they face, and are coming to us with ideas about how to tackle those.
बड़ा को थोड़ा दिमाग कम होता है, छोटा को थोड़ा ज़्यादा। छोटा का दिमाग फ्रेश होता है सर, वो बड़ा तो काम में बिजी होता है, फिर दिमाग खराब हो जाता है।
The aim was now to spark off a children's movement in Ladakh, and for this, a path-breaking initiative was undertaken in the form of CCVDs, or Children's Committee for Village Development. The idea was to help these enthusiastic future citizens create a forum where they could collectivize their opinions and voice it to the people who matter, thus making them partners in development rather than mere aid recipients. Within just a few years of implementation, CCVDs across the state have already started delivering amazing results. This CCVD in Skambo, for example, was concerned about the irregularity of their school teacher. After some brainstorming, the children secretly maintained an attendance register of the truant teacher over a month, then used it to lobby with the local education authorities, thus making sure that they got a new teacher who actually turned up to teach, something the adults of the village had been struggling with for months. In Thangbu, things were different. The teacher was there, but the school existed only on paper. In reality, the contractor had withdrawn, leaving behind just a broken-down ruin. Despite numerous efforts by the village elders, the frustrating situation prevailed. In an inspired moment, the Thangbu CCVD got its president to draft a detailed complaint. The young teenager then travelled all the way to Kargil and managed to make it alone to the office of the Superintendent of Police. Today, the intervention of the latter has resulted in the construction of a brand new school for these enterprising young students.
The big difference today is that children are organised, and being organised, they can develop a collective voice. Collective voices are always much more powerful than individual voices, and collective voices can be taken upwards, beyond the village. They can be taken to the block level, to the district level, to the state level, even to the national level.
हम लोगों ने सबसे पहले तो कश्मीर में गया कि सारे बच्चों ने अपने मुश्किलातों के ऊपर डिस्कशन किया, और कश्मीर से सिलेक्ट हुआ हम 2 बच्चे, कश्मीर से 1 बच्चे, और दिल्ली गया, दिल्ली से बम्बई में हमारा सिलेक्ट हुआ यूएन जाने के लिए। और बहुत से सब बच्चों को मुश्किलात बहुत थी, लेकिन उनमें से सब बच्चों की मुश्किलात एक थी, जो एक तो वार था पूरे वर्ल्ड के बच्चों को, एक एजुकेशन और एक चाइल्ड लेबर।
As the program extended into the Kashmir region, it carried with it the concept of children's participation in development, locally known as CGDs, or Children's Group for Development. Children in the CGD of Moti Mohalla, a small settlement behind the famous Dal Lake of Srinagar, demonstrated the advantages of a clean and hygienic environment by actually cleaning up the neighborhood themselves, despite ridicule and taunts from educated peers and elders. The history of militancy and unrest in the region has also sprung up a vulnerable segment of children affected by conflict. Loss of lives in the family has forced numerous children into child labor. Through its projects Secure Future in Srinagar and the Kargil Development Project, Save the Children has intervened to arrange non-formal education for some of the affected children, while providing necessary raw materials for the income generation efforts of others. The question of quality education for these future citizens, however, still remained. As it is, the academic track record of Ladakh students was disturbing. While 70% of all children in Ladakh were enrolled in government schools, only a minuscule 5% of these students actually managed to clear their matriculate exams. The reason? Unexciting teaching methods and poor teacher attendance due to the difficult terrain. Ironically, the students bore the brunt of the blame by being branded as unintelligent. The insecure environment of conflict and the constant fear of shellings in some regions further scarred the tender minds of many a child. Studying for a better future was thus an unimaginably difficult ordeal.
जो करगिल में अभी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट चल रहा है, शिलिंग चल रहा है, उससे मेनली तो बच्चों के ऊपर ही असर पड़ता है, बच्चों के एजुकेशन के ऊपर ही इसका असर पड़ता है, हेल्थ पर भी पड़ता है। और ये तकरीबन 97 ये जो शिलिंग है वो 97 से शुरू हुआ है, तब से आज तक जारी है। इसका कोई पता नहीं कि कब आएगा, कब बंद हो जाएगा, अचानक आ जाता है। और इसी तरह जो बच्चे स्कूल में होते हैं वो अगर पास में कुछ फटाके वगैरह भी फटते हैं तो दिल में एक डर सा रहता है कि कब जंग होगा। अच्छी तरह से वो पढ़ नहीं सकता है, वहाँ पे पढ़ नहीं पाता है।
Save the Children promptly swung into action by teaming up with the Jammu and Kashmir state government to launch a pioneering concept of pilot schools. These were government schools offered to save the children by the state government to be revamped on an experimental basis. The need of the hour was a fresh look at teaching methods and a joyful schooling environment that offered security to the children. In Minji, this pioneering initiative of partnership with the government met with resounding success, particularly since care was taken to ensure participation of the community as well.
अपना बच्चों को जब घर में रखते हैं तो उनको बिल्कुल आराम से रखते हैं, खाना अच्छे खिलाते हैं, उनकी कपड़े धो कर बैठते हैं, या मिसाल तौर पर जहाँ वो सो जाते हैं तो वहाँ पर भी हम तकिया वकिया कुछ रख कर, जब उनको मरीज़ हो जाता है तो हम उनके लिए दवा ख़रीदते हैं, कुछ न कुछ करते हैं। जब हम पढ़ाने के लिए देते हैं तो स्कूल के लिए कुछ इंतज़ाम ही नहीं है हमारे पास। तो ये सोचकर गाँव वालों ने भी हाँ इसमें तो कुछ करना चाहिए, क्योंकि यहाँ पर
ownership of the school by the newly founded Village Education Committee meant better facilities and respect for the teachers and correspondingly a higher teacher commitment to the village children, along with optimum utilization of resources. For example, a government grant for a compound wall was supplemented with funds and labor by the villagers, who worked day and night to build a new roof. Warm wooden floors, protective grills for glass windows, and a tiny kitchenette for the teaching staff, all within the available budget. The remote settlement of Pangbar, in contrast, offered a different challenge altogether. Situated in the highly remote Barso Nala belt of Kargil, reaching the village involves a demanding uphill trek. The route is treacherous, overlooking a steep valley, and quite often the width of the slippery path reduces to just a couple of inches. A slight slip and it's a straight fall all the way down. Completely cut off from civilization, the villagers in this area were absolutely indifferent to education, and not a single girl child was found to be studying in the entire belt. Today, following years of intense advocacy with the villagers, the pilot school at Pangbar boasts of more girls than boys on its roster. And most of the building material for the school, be it cement or glass panes, was all carried up personally by Pangbar's women and men along the same treacherous path. A sound testimony to community involvement in the school.
Ready, 1, 2, 3.
Common to all pilot schools is the introduction of the playway method of teaching. In this, the teacher is a friend who uses games and imaginative teaching aids to make studying an exciting, bonding experience.
C for E for
Customized teaching materials use regional names of characters, animals or objects to ensure easy comprehension by the students. Even before pilot schools, teaming up with the government was always a critical part of the organization's strategy, be it training of child creche or Anganwadi workers, or awareness raising on HIV/AIDS. An excellent working relationship with peers in the health department has ensured effective partnerships, leading to a successful immunization track record and collaborations in the field of medical infrastructure. And today, Save the Children's thrust on children's participation has been overwhelmingly supported by the leaders in administration.
पहले हमारे बात कभी नहीं मानता था सर, कैसे बताऊं? जब हम कोई मीटिंग में जाएगा तो बच्चा जाओ, बच्चे का काम नहीं है, तो हमें बहुत गुस्सा आया सर। हमने एक मीटिंग किया तो बड़ों मीटिंग पे हमने ऑब्जेक्ट किया, हमने बोला बच्चों को क्यों नहीं शामिल कर लेते, बोलता है बच्चों का बस का काम नहीं है, तो बोला हम सीसीबीडी का बच्चे, हम कोई सरपंच तो बड़ा होकर बनेंगे।
देखिए, हम सब ने बहुत बड़ी गलतियां की हैं बच्चों के मामले में, खासकर चिल्ड्रन एजुकेशन हो, राइट्स ऑफ चिल्ड्रन हो, उस मामले में हमने बच्चों को बच्चे सोचा और उनको ये महसूस कभी नहीं किया कि वो क्या चाहते हैं, वो हम जानने की कोशिश करें। तो जो ये नया कंसेप्ट सीसीबीडी का उन्होंने शुरू किया है, जिसमें कि बच्चों को इन्वॉल्वमेंट डिसीजन मेकिंग में, इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में है, तो जो एक नया कॉन्सेप्ट उन्होंने बच्चों में उजागर किया और उसके बाद फिर उसको पॉलिसी मेकर्स और ये ऑफिशियल्स तक इन्होंने पहुंचाया, जिसको कि हर जगह से उसको सराहना किया गया। तो मेरे ख्याल से एक बहुत बड़ा डेवलपमेंट है।
There are an increasing number of people in government and elsewhere who understand that, who are making real efforts to listen properly to what children are saying, not in a patronising way, but actually concentrating on what the children have to say and working then with children in trying to make a difference.
As Save the Children completes 25 years in the state, it continues to inspire the community, the children and the team to work towards achieving their dreams. Be it the team in Srinagar, Kargil or Leh, their determination and passion are unmistakable.
Unless you have the feeling to feel the thing, about the problems of the people, you can't really do anything. You can't be a practical person. You superficial, you can do many things, That's why first, before starting anything or doing anything, one has to have the feeling.
Across the state, children have been inspired to discover their strength, to dare to dream, and then work towards achieving it. Let's all get together in a growing spirit of partnership, government, development agencies, and communities, to ensure that these children can count on our support. After all, the dream is not just theirs, it's ours as well.